Welcome back to Casterly Talk. Alden, we should just leave in what we just edited out for bonus features.
Yeah. You just got a genuine cast break of the longest sigh of Ken's week right before we started.
Right
Broke me
before.
a little.
Oh, it's great. We're here. It's Casually Talk. It's our questions episode. We try to do this every Friday after an episode of House of Dragon, and after House of Dragon season 3 wraps, so we're going to continue doing this. That's funny because we started. The thing we just cut out was you and I trying to do, the word syllable mouth exercises from drama and radio days, and then that made me have a yawn and a sigh, and now I can't say all the words.
Look,
anyways, how you doing?
If people knew the proximity of when I get out of bed to when we do these videos, they might be concerned for me. So it's a miracle sometimes that these are even coherent. With they're at the end of the week, or our reviews are after work. We're tired. Yeah. For you, it's a little bit earlier, but it's hot as hell. It's beating us down. I feel like I'm in a dragon fight with how hot it is in Florida right now. So
what you're saying, Alden, is we're heroes. We're heroes as broadcasters, giving you the answers you asked here. No, we have a lot of fun. This has been actually a ton of fun, diving in deep on a lot of things with your questions, or sliding on the surface of things too, because that's part of the fun. Big week last week with the episode, this week with the episode 7, and we got the finale. We're racing towards some big things. Though, Alden, we wanted to pause a little bit here. It's not even a question, but it's a news story that was going around this week in the world of Westeros. And that is, of course, George R.R. Martin putting out a blog post that wasn't a very happy one, and it had nothing really to do. The books were mentioned and all that normal stuff, but it was well beyond that. And we wanted just to talk about it and address our love for George, because we're only here because of him.
Absolutely. It's the first blog post in 6 months, and he addresses a little bit of how the blog works these days, and how a lot of the times it's assistance if it's going to be an update thing or whatever it might be, but that he's personally writing this entry just to sort of update us. And I wanted to talk about it. You wanted to talk about it in part to just reaffirm our love for the man, like you said, and what he's given us, but also to not that I feel bad about any of our coverage, but just to set the record. If you've been watching us for a while, we get a little bit playful with George in a grandpa or uncle way. Same we do with our other George Lucas. Same as we used to do with Stan Lee. Same as a lot of these guys that are older visionaries, in that we personally maybe wouldn't have handled certain professional things in recent months the way that he handled them with people that he works with. But I wanted it to be clear that is not at all an indictment of the man. And when I read his post and saw a lot of the conversations about it, I realized, not that I ever forgot this, but it's just good to double down on the fact that these are people first, and it's a reality too that neither of us have faced yet, and one day you will, and one day I hope I will too, of being in our mid-70s. And it just made me think to know that he has less time in front than behind has to be hard, especially with everyone who sees him in his life is so when are you going to finish that thing? So when are you going to finish that thing? And it not that he says that in here, but it has to be a lot. So that was my starting point of just I want to have a George appreciation segment here, because it was I felt for him. I wanted to hug him.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a good reminder. We've talked about some of this stuff before. We are of the of the belief here that absolutely, want wins winner, can't wait, come on George, finish your story, those kind of things, and that can sometimes be expressed. We're not just talking about us, but it could, in the community, could be expressed with a little bit of frustration. But he doesn't owe us anything. If he wanted to pack it in and say, I'm enjoying the rest of my life, you imagine the end of the story. He has that right. And this post it kind of hit me too, and I'm not that. He's got nearly 30 years on me. Well, no, less than 30 on me. I'm getting old, Alden, too. And I got parents who are his age, and these are conversations that I've had with my folks of they're in good health, and I trusted George. I hope George is in good health, not for the book, but for himself. And those kind of conversations get real. And he talked about in this post of having lost friends this year, and the worst is yet to come. And there's a little ominous, and I think I hate to see it like that. There are some realities that we all deal with, like you said, of our years advancing. But it was we just wanted to address, because even this season on House of Dragon, we poked the bear, poked the George a little bit with some of the the poisonous garden creatures, and that Condal might be putting in there, and Yeah, and I too have. I've expressed some frustration with the way he's addressed or handled some of the feuds he's gotten into, or his take on some of the shows and whatnot. And it's not like, hey, it's all business and no hard feelings, right, man? It's just a reminder that in talking about a world that you love and talking about it so much, you kind of can get caught up in the punditry and podcastery nature of it all. So it was a good reminder this week, and we obviously wish nothing but the best. But we're here. This world is one of the most evolved and intricate worlds ever created in fantasy, sci-fi, anything else, and that's coming from you and I loving Star Wars. Lord of the Rings might be the standard bearer for a lot of reasons, and George has gotten up there in his own way and continues to. We are talking about a show based off a book that's a real world history book, and maybe green propaganda. Is I've always said is so rich and wonderful and easy. It's just an easy read. It was my favorite George R. R. Martin reading experience. So, anyways, no more words needed to say from me, George. We wish you good health and good feelings and good tidings, as they might say in your world.
Indeed, and it's important on a broader level, whether it's George or anybody, to remember that you can have, and we say this on our other show, anytime, like not just multiple truths, but you can hold multiple beliefs about a situation and compartmentalize the aspects of that situation. Because yes, on a fan level, we could be like, I really wish we had the ending and et cetera, and we can think all types of things as fans, as broadcasters, whatever else. But it's important, I think, no matter what your fandom is, even in sports, you hear a lot. Even me not being a sports fan, I hear a lot of anger and vitriol, and like, in one hand, it's like, I love this team so much they make me cry, but at the same time, I want that guy to be fired, and like, and it's hard to have those dualities sometimes existing in you. And I think it's important always to remember, whether that's George R. R. Martin, George Lucas, whoever it is, that they are still a person, and that you would love it if anything that you thought up was materialized, and that they know that they're lucky enough for that to have happened. And you can feel a certain type of way about the work, but you should always try to keep, your assessment of them as a person separate. One, because you don't know them, but also just to sort of accept that they, like you, have flaws. They, like you, have feelings. And if you love what they do, be on their side to a point. I'm not saying there's not a line. If George said something horrible today, we would reassess. But it's like that those are case-by-case situations. And as it stands right now, I think about him as a guy who has always been vulnerable, who's always been honest. He doesn't owe us anything like that. He doesn't owe us an essay on his depression or anything like that he has chosen to do. And for the better part of 30 something years, he has wanted to have a relationship with all of us. And even when it drags him down, even when it stresses him out, he has wanted to have a relationship with all of us, him. And he's kind of like up there with like Kevin Smith, of like people that saw like, oh, I can speak directly to my people, and has always had that vibe with us. And I appreciate him, and he does say in the post that there's still been amazing moments this year, and he's so happy about the Night of the Seven Kingdoms nominations. And I am season 2 just wrapped, by the way, in total. So I hope he's excited about it. And I don't know if we'll ever get wins. I really don't. But I'm at the point now where it's like the legend of George, and like, that he goes out feeling content with everything that he built, is more important to me than, at this point, his work rate, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Indeed. Now, right there with you. And as a sports fan, who, like, one of my favorite players, Barry Sanders, retired suddenly on the brink of setting some records, that it was like, he's like, there's a whole documentary about it. Like, I just wanted to go.
Oh, like he was about to set them. Oh, and then
he's about to set them.
Wow.
Yeah. Couple more seasons. He's one of the greatest players of all time. One of my favorites to watch. But same thing. And that was one of my first lessons of like, oh, come on, man, what are you doing? And it's like, what am I doing? This is my body work. I'm good. I'm going to do what I want. So, anyways, all that to say, George is not done. He's not done writing. He's not retired. He's still going. But we'll read the books, or the new pages, when we finally can.
Indeed.
We do have some questions, though, Alden, about this past week's episode of House of the Dragon. A lot of questions. And we have a lot of questions in the same kind of ballpark. And you have one first from our good friend, Jared. that connects to other things around Sheep Stealer.
Yeah, so the Sheep Stealer, the MVP of the online interaction here on Casterly
Mm-hmm.
Talk this week, he was brought up by a lot of people. Our friend Jared the Type Pilot, who's been on this channel
Mm-hmm.
before in our rewatch series with you, GOT. He was asking if we think the Sheep Stealer is actually dead. And then there were a lot of people expressing their feelings on Sheep Stealer and about the dragon fight and everything. And we wanted to sort
Yeah.
of just build this out into a little, let's talk about it. What do we think he's dead? How do we think he could be used, etc.?
Yeah. Yeah. A couple questions out there in our post, in our community post on YouTube. Ernie Bird, hey Ernie Bird, says the sheep stealer can't fly. Is he possibly prey for potential wild dragon? Non-book reader, but I don't know. Cannibal, and what we see there. Also, LR316 says the sheep stealer the most sympathetic character in HOD. I think my answer is yes. Before the show, I couldn't wait for the dance. However, the dragons are way too like dogs. I hated it. This has been expressed. I think our Gaz Nottingham. This was just a great comment. On paper, it sounded epic, but actually seeing dragons getting hurt is heartbreaking. Yes, I know it's not real, and dragons are mythical beasts, but every time a dragon has gotten hurt or died in this world of storytelling, it feels upsetting. David letting Sheep Stealer go felt like empathy on his part, which felt right. I want to start and just echo that. Yes, I absolutely am such an animal lover. I feed too many wild animals in my backyard. The city of Burbank's probably should be upset at me. I just absolutely love it. And I'm a meat eater who has gone vegan before. If we talked about it, I'm like, I wish I could do it more because I can't look into the eyes of a stray animal or a possum or a skunk in my yard and turn them away all that. So now I had to watch dragon on dragon brutal fighting action. I read it in the books and it was heartbreaking. It was even more heartbreaking on the show, and that leads into Sheep Stealer, who I do think has stolen this season. He is the star of this season.
It's an interesting thing to think about, even just broadly what people are expressing, because I'm right there with you. We talked about it. It's hard to watch if you love your pet. It's hard to watch if you love animals. And I almost wonder, it's funny because it's like you think about The Hobbit, either on the page or in the films, and it's like I don't feel bad for Smaug when he gets taken out. And it's almost because like he's too personalized. He has actual thoughts, feelings, and speech, and so he becomes a person, and that person is a dick. And so it's like Smaug like almost deserves what he has, whereas in keeping these
Smaug,
non-verbal,
you dick.
I am a dick barrel rider. Benedict Cumberbatch on the ground, the best.
Yeah.
But he these dragons, they are sentient in that they have feelings and thoughts, and we know that, and they are more intelligent than regular beasts, but they're not speaking, and so they maintain that innocence of a pet. They maintain that like companionship, and you always see like the fighting is there's always a lot of each dragon standing their ground. Like they don't want that to be the option. They don't actually want to go through with this until they are told. So it's sad. But Sheep Stealer in particular has been a big he's been a sheep stealer and a scene stealer. Someone hire me, please. Someone hire me, please. Put it on Screen Rant. Sheep stealer, the scene stealer.
Everything about no, you're absolutely. I want to stop for a second there, dive in. You're absolutely right. If these dragons spoke, if we knew a little bit more what Sheep Stealer was thinking, we might not be in his side. Maybe he's just like, I'll cut you all. Cut you all. And you're like, oh no, Sheep Stealer, don't do that. But yeah, from showing up with and the underbite, everything about his design, the situations, and even with people being like, hey, Sheep Stealer didn't wake up that morning and wanted to get into a fight.
No.
You put an untrained dragon into that.
Yes.
That's what you did. How do you train your dragon? You didn't.
Yeah.
And now he's there doing what he does.
He didn't ask to be in war. He just wanted to eat. And I do think he's very sympathetic. I mean, it's funny. If you start thinking about who are the sympathetic characters, it's a very funny little roster. Like, I think we got Sheep Stealer, we got Gwaine Hightower, we got Daron Targaryen. Helena. I actually like this little group. This is the more I name them, the more I like this group. And three of them are greens. How interesting that the what I would call the deplorable side does have its victims and its captives. And Sheep Stealer, even though he was drafted to Team Black, doesn't really have an allegiance to this. He is the most unengaged of the dragons and pays the biggest price. And do I think he's still alive?
Yeah.
Potentially. It feels almost like Chekhov's gun-ish to have Daemon repeatedly say, kill him, Caraxes, finish him, and then still have a shot of him walking off. That feels like a tip of like, he might show up pissed off and without Rhaena to rein him in next time.
Yeah. I think Sheep Stealer's alive. At least I choose to believe that. Where is Sheep Stealer? Is Sheep Stealer all right? That's going to be in my head. And I'm not expecting a return maybe in this final episode. And if Sheep Stealer doesn't show up again, I don't mean again. I'm not leaning on any material knowledge here. I'm just like in terms of what the show's trying to do. If that was it, Sheep Stealer got in this fight, got in this street fight, crawls away, damaged, injured, can't even fly, which was hard to watch too. It's just like, no. If Sheep Stealer doesn't return, there might actually be a little bit of outrage in the community that we don't have confirmation either way, that we don't know that Sheep Stealer's not just living a good sheep stealing, scene stealing life on his own.
And in the books, a Sheep Stealer's fate is undetermined. So they are off the hook in a sense. If book fidelity is your thing, Sheep Stealer, I believe, flies off into the mountains and is never seen again. And there's no recorded fate for him. And that other comment that brings up the idea of the cannibal is, one of the dragons, of the wild dragons. There's 3 wild ones that are named. Right. The cannibal, and what's the other one? The gray ghost?
Gray ghost, I believe, yes.
Yeah, and the gray ghost and cannibal haven't been seen in this. It would be interesting... if we're gonna talk about wrestling again, if we bring Sheep Stealer, like, a scene of Sheep Stealer like walking off to like a cave to try to like lick his wounds and recover, and then that's how you introduce cannibal. Like, that's how you put someone over. Is if the cannibal shows up and kills your fan favorite and is the true most heel of all dragons. But I don't know what the plot of where the dragon stories are gonna go with this. We'll find out now in this finale episode. Something tells me none of the dragons are not gonna have a good time. But yeah, it's interesting. And in terms of the sympathy, I do feel, like in a non-joking way, I do feel very bad for it, because again, it didn't ask for this. And even beyond the other ones who also didn't ask for it, but at least like someone like Melis is trained for war. Caraxes is trained for war.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's just hungry.
This is a street dog. And that look as Rhaena is being taken away from the scene, I'd say against her will, and Sheep Stealer has that, that screaming kind of like, where are you going? Like that stuff has kind of happened before, with Danny's dragons, and every moment with those dragons is heartbreaking. Even Drogon at the end. That was the scene. That was the moment that broke me when Sheep was just like, I brought you sheep. we had a thing going. Yeah. What are we doing? To that moment there that Gaz brought up of letting Sheep Stealer go. You're right. They really focus on, as we joked about on our review, the Mortal Kombat of it all with Daemon and Caraxes and finish him and Babality and all the things we joked about. Mm-hmm. But they made a decision, probably maybe tied to a little bit of the source material, but it did come across as a little bit of like empathy for Daemon. I don't know how super intended that was, but it's something I can maybe take from it. Where do you go with Daemon and his empathy for the star of the show, Sheep Stealer?
I think that Daemon does feel conflict about it in his own way, because it's very hard for, as I've talked about in all my little Daemon moments throughout our coverage, like this is not a guy who knows how to express his feelings, and they're always sort of misplaced. And you can find his feelings about one thing in his actions about another thing a lot of the time. So it's like a lot of like his hatred of Alicent, for example, is not really because he hates Alicent. It's because he loves his brother and doesn't know how to express that. He has had no beef with really Alicent. They've had little to no interactions. He's just cannot accept the way things are going with Viserys, so he misplaces it. And I think in this situation, I think there is a little bit of empathy for the whole situation of the dragons, because Daemon, one, loves them and is one of the greatest dragon riders and has a great relationship with his and understands what they are. But as he says, as a child, he had that want for one, same as Rhaena. And we know from just different dialogue bits and in the text as well, of course, that that's been such a big part of his life, that before his mom passed away, she was taking him up on dragon rides when he was an infant and a toddler, because his mom dies when she's 3. And so he's like so tiny. Those are formative memories for him. And being Targaryen, being of the blood of old Valyria is so important to him. And I feel like with all his talk of rebuilding Valyria, and their power and what they're allowed to have, he would consider this an affront against his own people and his own culture, I think, in a way to do this. He sees a resource lost. He sees a slight against their heritage. He sees that it didn't have to be this way. I think there's a lot going on there. Does he personally have feelings of for that specific dragon? Right. Maybe not, but I think Daemon's disgusted by the wastefulness of these creatures, of the wastefulness they're showing toward these creatures.
I could get behind that. Yeah, I think that's some good insight into what he might have been thinking. Again, superintendent moment, no, but again, the sheep stealer goes away. I think maybe they felt they might have to do that. There's open-ended story there, like you said, but there's these little moments all through Daemon, and we'll talk a little bit more about Daemon and his track record here in a bit. But there's little moments all through the season, including the moment that a lot of people talked about, including us, about Simon Strong's death and him kind of having that quiet turnaround of I like that guy. This kind of has that same kind of vibe. So I think it's a fair question, guys. Fair question indeed. The softer side, the dragon-loving side of Daemon Targaryen.
Indeed.
All right, this is kind of a big one here, Alden. I'm putting on the glasses for this one. We got a couple. Well, we're a little setup question. You want to do a little setup?
Yeah.
Then we'll get to the big one. Okay. Quadface says, I'm here for the return of Scarface King Aegon. The Realm's Delight question. What's been your favorite location set this season? As always, there has been, House of Dragon is this big sweeping epic, and they have big, giant, real locations, and the King's Landing is an actual castle. It's impressive. But of all the places we've traveled to, and I do think we've traveled to less places this time around. We're not following Daemon over to Essos or all that kind of stuff in the past. Where do you go? What's your favorite location?
Of this season specifically, as much of a stock GOT answer as it is, it's the Red Keep. I mean, that's always where I'm gonna want to be. I think specifically the small council chamber, those scenes with Rhaenyra and her team, or what she's trying to turn into a team of Manderley and Allen, and I love the more private. I mean, the throne's great, and the taking of the throne's great. Otto's death obviously added so much more mythology to that already incredible set that we've seen for all of the shows. And I hope that one day toward the end of Dunk and Egg, we get to see it again, from their point of view too. But I think that, the juice for me has been in the private moments of King's Landing, whether that's Rhaenyra's chambers, whether that's the storage basement where they're keeping Viserys's Lego, all of that stuff is always going to be my favorite. And you're right. And this season does kind of restrict you a little bit because there are less season one of the show, we went to Storm's End, went to the Wall. So Driftmark we've seen, but we haven't spent time there this season. So
yeah, indeed. And it's I love what's going on there, but I'm not going to answer Tumbleton, just Market City.
I'm done with Tumbleton, man. I'm over Tumbleton. Not as a storyline. I like the storyline, but I'm just I would not want to be there. Everyone sucks. Everybody's sad. This place is awful.
It's better than Rook's Rest right now, though. I'll tell you. Not a lot of good things going on there, but maybe
unless you're Sunfire. Unless you're Sunfire. Sunfire is on a comeback tour. So
yeah. For me, it is Harrenhal, and I love Harrenhal. And I know we spent a ton of time there last year, and a lot of people didn't like what was going on there. I liked it there too. That's obviously the same set. I just like the way it's been used this season. I like what's going on, and I just really like that we have Alice Rivers just kind of stepping in to the role as the witchiest witch in this land at this point in time with whatever she's got going on. And again, we talked about it. Some might be little tricks and potions, and some might be actual things going on with her. Can she control the birds? I don't know. But is she the ghost behind all the woos people might be hearing? I don't know. But I just like the time you spent there. I've been personally obsessed with Harrenhal since first reading about it. And for me, I was season 1, then started the books, and then we get to season 2, and we spent all this time there. We talked about it all the time. We'll talk about it again. The Tywin and Arya scenes there are some of my best. But I'm just obsessed with it all. It has, I think, the best, most interesting history of all the locations in this world that George created. And Harren the Black and all these things, and the dragons burned it down, and the hubris behind it, and it lasts a day. I love all that, but I've been obsessed with and they had to shoot it a little differently in season 2 of Game of Thrones, of course. The budget still wasn't as big as it would get, but I've been obsessed with like, all right, so what walls are broken? Do you move into a half-built room?
Yeah,
Like, do you
yeah.
Tywin takes someone with four walls? How's it actually set up? And I feel as though we've last season, but definitely this season, have really got to spend the time that I, as a fan, have wanted to spend in this mysterious, magical, perhaps castle that everyone wants. It's a piece of shit on paper, right?
Hmm.
Like that's a fixer-up. Everybody wants it, and I've been obsessed with the time there.
It's been really cool too to see, like you said, because in season 2, obviously it's not a problem, but it's just you're in Tywin's chambers, and that's pretty much it. Or you're by the where
Hmm.
they're keeping all the workers and everything.
Right.
And here, getting to see like where those bed chambers are, the one that Damon and Aemond have used, Alice's quarters that have her cauldron and all her ingredients, and the way that that like
Mm-hmm.
I had to look at maybe behind the scenes to figure out the geography, but like outside of that is that passage that takes you through that door, and then out in the door is the Weirwood
Right.
courtyard. Like it's really really cool. It's a great design, and
Yeah.
yeah, and to have a location like that that is so important politically, but is also magical, is really
Yeah.
cool.
It's kind of fun.
And and the fact that it's close to the Isle of Faces, and they've
Yeah.
teased that so lightly in each season that I've
Hmm.
been waiting for that to be relevant again. So it's
Yeah.
exciting. Now, Ken, if you were a lord in this land, would you throw your hat in the ring to take it over?
No, actually, I wouldn't. That's why it's another reason it's funny. I'm so obsessed with it. I look at it, I'm like, that. I think that's it. I'm like, why?
Yeah,
Outside of the power that seems to come with it, right? But why would you want to be there? Like, what does it actually mean? There's so many other places I'd rather be. If I'm a lord that's not giving up my titles and can't go to the wall, which I said before is probably the place I'm going to.
right.
I don't. I definitely wouldn't end up at Harrenhal, but I just love it in terms of reading about it and thinking
Yeah.
about it and wondering about the logistics. You would you take Harrenhal?
Oh God, no, no, no. At some
Exactly.
point, I've talked about this with Andy. At some point, when the season's over and we bring back ranked, shout out,
Yeah.
check out the GOT Heroes ranked. We're going to do more of those down the road. We want to do castles and keeps, and
Hmm.
inevitably, Harrenhal will come up. And it's not going to be for me. I would not want to hang out in this place. I
Mm.
mean, like, would I want to hang out with Alice? Yes, I'm weak. But at the same time,
A
like,
weak man.
I'm but a mortal man. But would I want to physically be there in the wet ass
Hmm.
Riverlands where everybody's got an attitude and there's
Yeah.
constantly it's brackens and brackens and
Yeah.
blackwoods, going after each
Yeah.
other, and like I don't want all that. And
Oh,
it's
that. Yeah.
broken, and the renovations that Damon did got destroyed already.
Yep.
They didn't even last a full season. Nah, forget
Yep.
that. I'm taking. My gut says I'm going north. I don't know what I'm taking, but I'm going north. I'm not hanging.
Yeah. We both have the temperament of those in the north. Maybe we all should maybe try for Dorne, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Also too hot. Who am I kidding? I'm a cold weather person. So great question there to spark that conversation from Quad Face. But he mentions I'm here for the return of the Scarface King, and we said sheep stealer's been stealing the show this past week, Alden. Aegon II, the return of Sunfire, the Dracarys, the burning of the Mutants. It was this triumphant moment for a character that is absolutely horrible. But we
Yeah.
can't deny that there's been something going on, not just in the show, but in the fandom, the show fandom in general, about Aegon. And Ernie Bird asked a very direct and important question. Can Aegon ever be redeemed? I mean, he's done some pretty effed up things.
Hmm.
And I'm smiling and joking because it's kind of a fun question to still the world. But Alden, yeah, this is kind of could be a heavy question. It could be a question that has a ton of reality wrapped around it.
Right.
But also, as I said before, I texted you this week, being like, I can't believe I'm kind of rooting for him.
Hmm.
So let's dive into this here. Can Aegon II, the Scarface King, be redeemed?
So the first thing to address with it is the mythological caveat of it all that we also apply in Star Wars and comic books and different things, wrestling. Like, characters operate within the like bell curve of their world,
Right.
and obviously, to like, the word redemption is very loaded in real life. That word being tied to like things like rehabilitation and things like that. And I just we understand that the Casterly Talk audience is very chill and very intelligent, very insightful, as are many Ice and Fire fans. So it's like, of course, this may not need to be said, but it's always worth saying, especially online. There are crimes that he has committed that, of course, in our world are irredeemable, as is the case of many characters. And we
Yeah.
off air, when we were putting the questions together, we mentioned Darth Vader, Kylo Ren, these different, you can go to like Magneto, like whoever that have ridden the line or come back to the good, or joined the heroes in some cases. And it's like, if you took everything at the literal face value determination, of course Vader and Kylo Ren and all those characters would be so far beyond the pale, it's not even funny with the amount of
Yeah.
lives taken. You even in GOT, you look at the Hound. That's an 8-season arc of a redemption of sorts, where he's able to become a mentor and a father figure to somebody, and is able to give them a piece, but it's still attached to things he's done. And I think that's sort of where I'm going, is like, could Aegon find theoretically a second half of his life that is better and more productive and even kinder than the first? Sure. Does that absolve him of anything? No. And I don't think that that's the world that Martin operates in anyway. He wouldn't have
Yeah.
absolved him. Like, Tyrion was never a villain, but he definitely goes from grayer to lighter as it goes. But Tyrion is always paying for the man that he was. Daemon still is always paying for the rogue prince that he was already earned. He'd already earned that reputation when the show started. So of course, nobody's saying that Aegon could be redeemed, but could Aegon find purpose? Could Aegon be helpful? Sure, in as much as a lot of these characters can be.
Yeah, the real world crashes right into the fiction with this question and this character and this show and this world. And again, in an episode where we're talking about what George gave us, this is what he set out to do when he's like, let's present these high fantasy characters with, in a little more real fashion. That's the shades of gray that everyone has loved, especially once this show, in this world exploded onto the pop culture main stage in 2011. So I'm glad you brought up Star Wars. Darth Vader is horrendous, and the deathbed conversion to the light side in the real world could rub people the wrong way. It might not be for us to determine; it might be the Force to determine what's right. But I've seen a lot of discussion this week, like I said, of people like, "Yeah, I'm behind Aegon," and "Yeah, it was a good moment," and I think it is a triumphant moment. I think I'll try to explain why in a second, at least from my point of view. But then I saw some people reminding folks of like who he is. And this is a sexual assaulter. This is a sex criminal. This is a very very careless king. This is horrible. I mean, that's what he was faced with.
He's a mass murderer too. I mean, with
mass murderer,
the hanging of the rat catchers and
that's what Laris and him and Tylan. That's the conversation they have. You're a horrible, evil man. Basically, is what Laris is saying. And I think in that moment, Aegon, I take it as like, yeah, you know what, I am. Tyler, are you going to tell me the truth? And we broke down that moment in the review. So I just thought, I want to say, I want to come down somewhere in the middle between reality and the fantasy of if you're out there going, I'm kind of rooting for Aegon now. I don't think it's 100% fair to bring out the actual sins of this character, the actual crimes of this character, and hold it against you in the real world. And I think sometimes in the discussion space that happens.
Oh yeah.
Where like, how dare you? It's like, Aegon's not the president of the United States. So we can take it a little bit differently of his past. The reason I think this scene worked, I think just we watched Aegon from the lowest of the low here.
Yes.
We watched him basically rise from the dead and then now from the ashes, this literal phoenix emerging from the flames here of Sunfire. I also think there's a lot of love for Sunfire here in this scene. But it was this season he kind of not even returns to himself. He grows. He changes. He makes a decision, I think, to be something else. I don't necessarily think it's, and I'm not talking about what I might know of the story going forward. I'm just saying in this moment, I don't think he's like screaming, yes, yes, the Sunfire kills people. And he's like, and I'm here to heal the world. Like he's not converting to Christianity here. He's not found God. He's returning, but it's to himself. And that might be a bad thing in this land. But we watch this human kind of pick himself up, but also be covered in mud and cut literally, figuratively, emotionally, and kind of have to restrain himself and have to be humiliated. And I think we watched a person return to their own inner strength. And I think that's where a lot of the inspiration and inspiring triumphant vibes came from, just in that moment. I think it's okay to get swept up in that, even though, yes, this is not a good person. And I'm going to talk about more about Damon here, but kick it back to you.
Yeah, it's important overall, if you're online discussing any piece of fiction, to understand that depiction does not equal endorsement. And
Right.
that's a huge problem with my age group and younger, is that they think depiction is endorsement. And it's not. Characters are characters. They don't know that they're in the story. There is a point to what they do more often than not. And protagonists and antagonists, as we said in the review, are not linked to alignment. They're not linked to light and dark and good and evil. They're literary functional terms for like who you're following, what the opposing force is. And I think people get way too caught up sometimes in that. And it's not to say that the show isn't talking about those things, because it is important,
Right.
that he's a sex criminal, because that is important for his arc. It's important for Allison's arc. It's important for what the show is saying about these roles, especially like patriarchal roles and things like that. But it doesn't mean that somebody who's invested in his rise or return is at all, invested in covering up his criminality. It's the same as Breaking Bad in that way, where it's like you lose Walt very early in that show when you realize, oh, I'm watching a villain origin. Like that's what I'm watching.
Right.
But he's still the protagonist. So it's cinematically, you're still supposed to be with him until you're not. And that's a lot of times the magic trick of writing and of great writing. And we've seen that with Rhaenyra, where we've always been with her, and she's so heroically coded, even from the beginning, of like being this teenage girl who is of this like beautiful otherworldly dynasty, and she's got her dragon, and she's got her the symbol of the stag that she sees, and all this stuff. And it's like that's all the cinematic language of like you should be on her side. And so in the same way that you have all this stuff of her half brother of like, look at what a piece of shit he is, and then suddenly this victorious moment gets you, Rhaenyra has the opposite, where suddenly we're having moments where we're like, that's disappointing, but that doesn't mean that we're supposed to be flipping or anything like that. It's never that simple. I look at someone like keep it fantasy relevant, look at someone like Gollum, like he's a murderer, and he was a murderer from the get. But the whole point of what Tolkien created and what Jackson later directed and what Andy performed is that you still understand that there's something in there that was snuffed out that occasionally like you can glimpse. You can kind of glimpse it. And you go back to younger Aegon, the Titanic version, and he's kind of scared of his grandpa. He knows his dad doesn't like him. He's kind of standing around. He's got the longer hair. He's more awkward. He's already like becoming that drunken little loser. And it doesn't excuse anything, but you also see like he was at a time a child. And that's why it's tragic for Alicent, especially, to be in the positions that she's in.
Yeah, all this is a reminder of the purpose of some of these big stories, the Star Wars, the Star Treks, the Lord of the Rings, in this world where there's supposed to be some themes and lessons. That's why I love focusing on them in all my work. I want to focus on the themes and lessons. I always promote my podcast with themes and lessons of what can you take away from this. And the show is showing us a part of Aegon that you might actually identify with out there. And maybe on the flip side, when he returns to his full power and he doesn't necessarily change all of his ways, maybe that's the lesson to be there. This is why I talk about my love of Stannis Baratheon. It starts from that's me. Oh, I hope that isn't me. I connected with Han Solo early in the 80s as a kid who fell in love with Star Wars and that cool scoundrel. And then I learned later on I was more like Han than I wanted to be, as someone who couldn't commit, wanted to run away, and always saw what he could be and turned to something else. Like that's Han's lessons up to the moment he dies. That's why I love these stories. And so going forward, the show might be trying to make you do this. Look over in Andor, to go to Star Wars again, of Didra Miro intentionally in season 1. You're supposed to root for this female imperial officer in this horrible patriarchal man's world, and who's being done wrong. And then all of a sudden, there's the reminder of, you learned some lessons, you cheered from her, still a fascist, still an evil fascist, and that could be coming with Aegon here.
It's very hard, I think, for people to, again, this is another instance of like, can you hold multiple ideas in your head at once, to know that somebody might have an uphill battle to climb in the environment that they're in, but then take a step back and realize that is true. However, that entire apparatus still must be defeated, Like
Yeah,
Dedra Miro was the protagonist. She's a perfect example, and I'm glad you brought her up because she's a very Game of Thronesian example as well in terms of like that she's
yeah,
mostly a political character. I think she pulls a blaster like once in all two
yeah,
seasons,
maybe, yeah,
and she's all about her mind and her desire and what she wants and her unwillingness to bend on certain things, and we're endeared to that because we find things in ourselves in them. James Gunn has talked about how he was surprised at making Superman, how much he identifies with Luthor, somebody who
right,
did everything and put in all the work and really became humanity's greatest man and really did it. And then
yeah,
Superman comes around and it's like, you don't even matter. And like, there is that part where
yeah,
you're like, you kind of understand like how that would maybe feel. And
yeah,
that's the great thing about villain writing or even anti-hero writing or tweener
mm,
writing for a wrestling term. Like someone like Damon, who, we're going to bring into this, like Damon
yeah,
is never the antagonist of the show, but he was at a time the antagonist in his brother's life. He was the antagonist for Otto.
yes,
And it's like he has done things that are reprehensible, but he is
mm,
facing a greater evil in the assessment of us, the viewers, and maybe that's
yeah,
also a part of why Aegon is getting the reception he's getting from fans. I think it's important too to put him in the context of the war right now. The
mm,
Greens without him have arguably gotten worse and more annoying, and they have a different vision, a different mission statement now. The Ormond
mm,
Greens, the Ormond
mm,
Darren connection is over here doing something completely different, and it's almost made
yeah,
him like a third party in the war where he
yeah,
used to be a main character, and that
yeah,
that makes us want him to disrupt because we like chaos,
mm,
and yeah,
mm.
there's just something about us, I guess, as people that respond to that.
Yeah, it was interesting watching him having to lick a shit covered boot in Root's Rest. And my reaction to that was, man, that sucks. That sucks for him. Where, like, watching Cersei try to lap up water off a dirty prison
Mm-hmm.
cell floor was more like, look how she's fallen, right? And
Yeah.
that might say a lot about internalized misogyny. It might say internalized patriarchy stuff going on there. I don't know.
And
And I
it
don't,
also is because we hate the High Sparrow more than we do these Rook's Rest guys. I
yes,
think that's part of it
my
too. Is that like we're like
mm,
we
yeah,
want our evil wine sipping biatch to destroy this annoying potato sack loser that is taking
right.
over. Like we're endeared to her there. She becomes the protagonist of her arc, while she's
She
the
does.
antagonist of every other arc.
Yeah, yeah. But be clear to be clear. I think we're on the same page. But like in that moment, I was kind of like that. Cersei, this is what you get. Is how far you've fallen, right? That's
Oh,
where
I
where
thought.
I'd
Okay,
say.
I understand. I thought. I
Yeah,
think.
sorry. Yeah, I want to be clear.
I thought you were
Yeah.
saying you
No, no, no.
felt
I was I
worse
was more
for her.
empathetic towards
Oh.
Aegon.
Oh, okay.
More empathetic towards Aegon. Sorry,
Gotcha.
sorry, sorry. My bad. And less empathetic for her in that moment, and
Right.
that's why I'm questioning, like, why, what's going on inside me that was the case.
Yeah.
But you're right, High Sparrow. We all were rooting for him to die, but then what happens? You know, the whole picture of Cersei, when you think about her story, as portrayed by Lena Headey, as shown on that show, and what you do know from reading the books, I'll absolutely throw that in there. But just this character, like by the time she gets to that wine sip
Yeah.
at the end of season 6, I was applauding her.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was absolutely applauding her because there's something about this world and her family, specifically her father, that put her here. The marriage to Robert, that scene in season 1 of did you really think it could work once? All that all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Like then it was like I had this different view of her, and I got always loved the performance, and I was always a fan of Cersei from season 1. You could ask some of my friends. Like I had Cersei figures, and was like she's complicated, but she makes me feel things. I loved the character.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who was like, I'm like Cersei, and I'm like, you are. And we had a complicated friendship because of it. So yeah, I only bring that up as just as a good example of what this show can do.
Mm-hmm.
If you follow it and you really look at these stories, and and apologies to Cersei, I should have been on board sooner, I guess. But yeah, we'll see where this goes. And I just all this to say, this is a great question of can he be redeemed? Because there was a lot of folks who I think would say yes, that this week was a bit of a redemption, and we're going to see where that goes. But it's also, and this is what I go. We have a listener who obviously some comments that we that don't always agree with ours, and we think that's great, and we'd love to address them more. But Superflyers was like, hey, pointed out like Damon's pretty bad too, and you're all hammering Cole.
Yes.
You're all hammering maybe Aegon. You're hammering Team Green. I think the show kind of sets you up to do that in a way. We're unapologetically Team Black, but yeah, like you highlighted, Damon, very bad too.
Mm-hmm.
So Alden, why are we more on his side? Is it the Matt Smith of it all? Is it the Caraxes of it all?
It's definitely the Matt Smith is part of it, which is not a shot at Fabian. It's just you come in with love for a name sometimes, and a certain level of charisma. And I think the other thing too is Damon starts the show with already, like I said, his reputation as the Rogue Prince. He's already had a career. He's already a knight, etc. I think the reason why we're more endeared to Damon than Cole is one, his connection to someone who I said is very heroically coded, which is Rhaenyra, and also the drama between brothers with him and Viserys is so real, and I think emotional and loving, and a lot of us were able to see like some great family dynamic stuff in that. But when you look at their deeds, especially as it pertains to violence, I think that the show, like, Damon does bad things, right? And obviously the blood and cheese incident went horribly wrong is an understatement.
Yes.
But like,
went awry.
even it was not the best. Goals not met. And but even then, like, even if we put that on a shelf of like, he hired guys that went rogue and didn't do what he said, like, if we look at we literally did this. We have seen Damon do things like defend the realm from the Triarchy with Corlys and go and take on the Crab Feeder. We have seen Damon do things like stand up for his family. We have seen Damon do what he needs to do when he's called upon in a certain way. We've also seen him kill his first wife and everything. I'm not ignoring his crimes. But when I look at Cole as he's depicted in the show, he, violently, horrifically kills Joffrey at that wedding. From a place of ego. It's not even a strategy thing. He wasn't on order. It wasn't a matter of war. It wasn't a matter of anything. It was, I'm an insecure freak and I'm going to destroy this guy because he just hinted that he's got something on me. He kills Beesbury for daring to speak sense. And he's attacking innocents. He's attacking old men. And he does it in a way that is completely unhinged. I mean, and at Driftmark, when Alicent is having her breakdown, she says, "Bring me Lucerys's eye." And Cole, to his credit, does say, "I'm sworn to you as your protector." But then when you get the, Rhaenyra and Alicent, she tries to lunge at her, Cole steps in like he's going to back up this this assault on Rhaenyra, which is really about him. And what does Daemon do? Daemon de-escalates. And so I just think it's not that I'm making a morality judgment of like who's going to heaven, who's going to hell. They're both going to hell. But it's that Cole has never come at anything from a place of like actual heroism, where I think that Daemon does still qualify as anti-hero. We're riding that very thin line between villain and anti-hero here. When are you a mass murderer, or when are you the Punisher or Wolverine, or like any of those characters? Daemon is more of a Wolverine Punisher, and Cole is, I didn't get to sleep with the princess again. She didn't want to run away with me, so I'm going to murder noblemen.
Yes.
Yes. So it's just it's a slight bridge too far on him, and I apologize to all Cole fans, but that's my take.
Yeah, no, I think, and again, we love the performance. We actually love the character. We love.
He's so compelling. Yeah, he's so compelling.
He's so compelling. But I think you're right. To me, as portrayed, again, books can tell a different tale. That's what we're here. We're here to celebrate both. But as portrayed on the show and portrayed wonderfully, I don't think there isn't that redemption moment. I'm glad you pointed out there is nothing that seems to be. This is someone who's like, I'm a hero, but has yet to really show that, right? Unless it was on an individual basis with Rhaenyra early on, or Alicent, or whatever like that. You know what I mean? But he never delivers on what he promises of who he is. To me, Daemon does. Again, horrific crimes, absolutely. I don't think Aegon's had that yet. Right. But you're laying the groundwork is there for him to be something different, and maybe that's what you're feeling right now. Even if, especially for people who are show only, you have no idea where there's going. Or like me, who's like, I remember some of the plot points. I don't remember the details intentionally at this point. I think you're set up. You're watching him get just kicked spat on and shit on, and almost literally.
Yeah.
And here he gets to rise up because he stands up for himself, right? I think that's what AEGON. I think that's what spoke to us this past week of AEGON. It's like he stood up for himself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to back away. I'll face what I have, and I'm going to let the world know who I am. And Sunfire's like, now we're here together. You're worthy of me in this moment, and I think that spoke to a lot of folks. And we'll see going forward if that holds. But this is what I do so love about this show, that in this world, beyond the show, the books too. And this is why I sometimes make fun of the shades of gray, because I think that gets applied to other fantasy properties or sci-fi properties that I don't think it's a one-to-one trade there. But this show does it in a wonderful way. That, remember, at one point there was like people like rooting for Cersei and Jaime as a couple.
Yeah.
And completely overlooking the actual circumstances and the inbreeding of it all. And that's what this show, I think it hit a line with Allison and Aemon. I think it hit a line that people were like, oh, no, can't do this one. Uncles and nieces, we're good. David and Rhaenyra, what a marriage.
Look, man,
can't do this one.
Thoughts are not a crime. This ain't Minority Report. He just thought it. We just had the unfortunate burden of having to see his thoughts.
That might have been the crime. But anyways, all in good fun. By the way, all in good fun. If you're out there and you love Cole and Cole spoke to you, I actually would love to hear why.
I would too.
We love those kind of discussions here.
I would too, and it's an interesting question, and yeah, it is. I'm glad to have to think about the careers and the deeds of these two guys, because it is a challenging question to find that line between villain and anti-hero, and is it just about the perspective? Is it about the perspective of Condal and his writing team? But yeah, I do think that the show goes out of its way to show you, like, when push comes to shove, Daemon shows up. It suggests he's never showing up in the way you want. Whereas Cole never shows up, even if he is like an objectively good fighter, an objectively good Kingsguard, like he can be good at all those things and still never have a moment that is worthy of anything beyond abuse. Like when Daemon as a strategist is rallying the Rivermen and doing everything that he's doing. Cole as a strategist is like, what if I sent a twin to kill his twin brother? Like even his like from a distance moves are underhanded and shitty and destroy other families.
Right.
So yeah.
But we'll see going forward. Will Aegon emerge as everyone's favorite? We'll see. We'll find out. Here. A lot of fun. Thanks for the questions. There were some other questions that we're going to maybe move to after the season, or we'll talk more about Willow and other things. But we appreciate the questions. You can post them on our community posts when we put up midweek, or on the episode reviews themselves, or reach out on social media. Links down below. If you're on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Napzok, there's a Discord section for House of the Dragon. You can ask a question there too. So that's it, Alden. We've done it. We've talked about all the evil characters that we love to root for or still love to hate. Any final thoughts?
My final thought is this. This is the final Q&A before the season 3 finale for House of the Dragon. So if you have as well any questions about the season overall, you could feel free to throw those in. Any like looking back type questions. We will not speak to you all again until we've already seen it. So I'm not going to say, let us know what you think is going to happen in the finale. We'll just see you on the other side when we're all freaking out and crying about a great many things, probably.
A great many things. All right, that's it. We'll see you next time here on Casterly Talk.